Hi, and thank you so much for popping by. My name is Dr. Bita Pabalozi. Do feel free to call me Dr. Bui. On my mind today are two articles or news coverage that I was reading on the Weekend Post and on the Botswana Gazette. Specifically, the articles that were in reference to the extracts of the book that Rre David Magang will be publishing. So I just want to make that clear as we are talking here that I am not a political analyst. I am a media sociologist. So the issues that I talk about are actually from the sociological perspective or from the sociological lens, so that we have that very clear. I don't toe any party line on this channel, okay? Alrighty, my friend. Something that Rre Magang said in his conversations with the journalists from the Weekend Post and the Botswana Gazette is that, independent thinking is not encouraged, right? People must be towing the party lines in order to get there, right? And as I read that, I was thinking, then why did you bother hiring the experts when you're going to ignore them? Right? Why do we hire all of these expensive experts, specialists within government only to ignore their advice? And in the case of Rre Magang, he was specifically speaking to the case of Dr. Mateka, and how when Dr. Mateka raised the issue of that, the COVID-19 funds were being misused, he was sidelined. In his being sidelined, he ended up in court, just because he was telling the truth about the misuse of the COVID-19 funds and how they are being used for what? For political gain. What I think is interesting about what Rre Magang was saying in these articles is that this is what Professor Good was saying before he became a prohibited immigrant from Botswana, and as per the directive of the former administration led by Dr. Festus Mogae. Now, Professor Good was made a prohibited immigrant for essentially saying that the system in Botswana, the political system in Botswana, is designed to ignore the ordinary person, that the system is designed to continue to preserve the rights and interests of those who are powerful and those with strong political affiliation. And what I think is interesting about what these two men are saying is that this is what research is showing today. It is showing that unless things change, the political system is designed to empower those who are already in power. And this is why we continue to see the high margins of inequality in Botswana, and why we are talking about this poverty in 2025. So Professor Good was not only just for promoting equality for the ordinary Botswana or everybody else, not just the political elite, but he also had a strong emphasis on preserving the rights of the Basara, right? Which I think is something that our current president, President Boko, has a strong history on, of also making sure that they preserve the rights of the Basara, right? So all good and well with that one. And something else that Professor Good really emphasized or was reinforcing with his commentary and his research was that, there are strong social and sometimes invisible forces in Botswana politics. These forces are the ones that want to keep the system as it is, right? These are the forces that want to keep the system focused on those at the top and to ignore those of us at the bottom. So according to research, of which I read a couple of articles, there are some very telling statements. There was a chapter within this particular study that was conducted at the University of Botswana, which was talking about parliamentary privileges and inter-party elite business ventures. Inter-party elite business ventures. So I read directly from the paper. By the mid-1990s, government had built luxury apartments for parliamentarians in Gaborone, and the occupation of these by BNF party members became controversial, obviously, raising considerable disquiet among a significant section of the party's followers and some leaders. BNF parliamentarians were branded by the media and party members as hypocrites who were supposed to represent the interests of the poor, the unemployed, the homeless, the underpaid, the whole gamut of the underprivileged. Calls were made for parliamentarians to boycott the flats, and the issue became a hot potato in the party. Shortly after becoming president in 1998, Festus Mogae authorized a vehicle subsidy scheme for MPs, councillors, members of land boards, and chiefs to buy cars subsidized at about 50% by government. The rationale was that these would be utility vehicles to be used in the running of the affairs of recipient constituencies. The beneficiaries perceived the scheme as a windfall and began surging forward with vigorous zeal to buy expensive luxury vehicles. This incurred public condemnation as some of the vehicles purchased were very costly. Even the MPs themselves acknowledged that the scheme was being abused and needed regulation, and so did Mogae. The scheme was abused by both BDP members and those from the opposition. All right, so this is why Professor Good was emphasizing and reinforcing during his time that in 2005, before he became a prohibited immigrant, that the way the system is designed in Botswana, the political system, the way that it is designed, it is made to serve the interests and to preserve the interests of those in power and those with strong political affiliation. They also speak here about President Masire and Mogae in their overseas trips meant to woo foreign investors, often brought along business people, among whom were prominent opposition activists. In early 2012, private newspapers were awash with stories that Gilson Saleshando of the BCP MP for Silbepico West and the former BCP president and his wife had significant shares in one of the safari companies whose other shareholders were said to be President Ian Khama and other BDP and business heavyweights. The company was operating in the CKGR. So this paper is very interesting. It gives you a lot of insights about how inter-party politics continues to serve those in power and those with strong political affiliation. And as I said in the previous post about tenderpreneuring and the vis-a-vis the social procurement approach, that if things are left the way they are, then we can anticipate that things will continue to benefit the ones in power and not those who are marginalized, underserved, underpaid, right? Alrighty, my friend, I thank you so much for popping by. I hope you are having a lovely day where you are, but most importantly, I hope you're having a healthy day wherever you're watching me from. Bye.